Presenting almost everything you need to know about money.
Money does not grow on trees.
But you heard that before.
You have choices. Now let's think about some of the choices that you have. What's one that you don't want to do, for example?
You definitely don't want to drop out of school.
Let's look at why we don't want to drop out of school. 1 in 4 students, that's 25%, will drop out.
Look around you. That's 1 out of every 4 people that you see. It could be you.
Let's not make it you. 1/2 of people on death row, that's people who committed a crime bad enough that they need to die for it, or dropouts. Every 9 seconds, someone drops out. And if we look at the unemployment rate, you have a less than a 50% chance
to be employed if you drop out of school.
Unemployment rate. So this is how many people that are actively looking for a job, but they can't get one. The higher the number, the worse it is.
So as you can see, college grads are much more likely to be employed than high school dropouts. High school dropouts have 15.7% in 2011 unemployment rate.
Half of all parents on welfare are high school dropouts.
Yeah, 1 in 3 teen moms is a high school dropout.
If your father's not active in your life, then you're twice as likely to drop out. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to. It's just a statistic when we look at who drops out.
75% of the people in state prisons are high school dropouts. 75%, that's 3 in every 4.
A big reason why we want people to stay in school is that people that are incarcerated, which means people in prison, and people who are on welfare, we spend $24 billion.
Okay. And U.S. would have to save on healthcare, it would save on healthcare $42 billion if each high school dropout finished just 1 more year of school.
That's like saying instead of dropping out when you're a sophomore, wait till you're a junior to drop out.
Or don't drop out at all.
Or don't. Yeah, that's a good plan. All right. So
after high school, because you're going to graduate, dropping out is not an option, there's 4 different things that you could do. 1, you could further your education. You could enter the workforce, meaning get a job. You could join the military, or you can volunteer. So what does it mean to further your education? Where are you going to go? You could either go to community college, or university. So what's the difference?
You're writing this down, by the way.
This is on your notes. Check it out.
Community colleges. This is like a 2-year degree. You can get additional training, like say you want to do welding, you can go to a community college, or you can get a licensure. We're going to talk about licensure in a minute. Adults can also use this to get their GED if they did make a decision that wasn't so great, if they don't want to cost us $24 billion.
Yeah, so if you drop out of high school, you can go back to get an equivalent degree, which would be called a GED.
Community college, the types of jobs if you go to community college would be...
Like if you want to be a paralegal.
Yep, that person.
They also have nurses programs. Pitt Community is really popular for nurses programs, but it's only for a 2-year degree, so that doesn't mean you're as likely to get a job if you had gone to a 4-year university.
What's that 4-year university called?
It could be called a college. So colleges and universities basically mean the same thing. Usually we think of colleges as being smaller. For example, Barton College in Wilson is a small school that's a private school, and it has the name college.
Or you could go to a university. We're all familiar with East Carolina University. You can go there and you can get an associate's degree. You can get all the way up to a doctoral degree.
A bachelor's degree, not an associate's degree. You get an associate's degree from community college. Okay, so university, colleges, basically the same thing. Typically we think of universities being bigger than colleges, but that's not always the case. Okay, another option, you can enter the workforce, which basically means get a job. Later today we're going to talk about how you get a job as far as applying and interviews and that kind of stuff. But your third option would be to join the military. So why would you even join the military?
You're writing this on the margin, by the way. You write it, find somewhere. I don't care where, but you need to write it on there somewhere. Now, military can pay for college, or you can just go straight from high school into boot camp. They do have some basic requirements, though. You have to have a high school degree. Some of the branches will accept a GED, but not all of them. If your parents give you permission, you can sign up when you're 17 to go. If not, you have to wait till you're 18. You do have to be a U.S. citizen or a legal alien that's going through some extra steps, and you have to pass a physical. Now, each physical is different per branch.
Last option, say you really don't know what you want to do and you just want to get some worldly or maybe travel experience. So you could volunteer. The government has provided several options for you. One could be the Peace Corps. Peace Corps is when the government pays for you essentially to go across the world, and the purpose on the government end is to promote peace with other countries. But for you, you get to travel, you get to meet people in other parts of the world, and you get to serve the underprivileged.
When we say underprivileged, like you'd be building houses and farmland,
or working at a school maybe.
Doing good things and getting to meet new people.
At the expense of the government.
Yeah. You don't get paid to do that, just like you don't get paid for the AmeriCorps, but they do provide like basic housing for you, and food and clothes while you're with them.
Yeah, and AmeriCorps is pretty much the same thing, except it's not across the world, it would just be across the country in America, hence. Last but not least would be the Senior Corps.
And the Senior Corps is obviously not in your age bracket, but this would be something for like grandparents that or people who have retired, and they're tired of sitting at home and they want to go out and work with either young people who maybe don't have a older person to advise them, or they want to work with other seniors to just have companionship.
So all of these would be valid options for you after high school, whether it be go to college or university or community college, go get go volunteer, go get a job, or join the military. All of them would definitely be noble things to do.
Regardless of whatever you decide to do, you do need to have a plan, which is what we're going to kind of talk about today. All right. So is college the way you want to go?
Or you could get a job. The average yearly salary in the United States is $44,000. In North Carolina, it would be about $30,000.
We make a lot less here. Top lowest paying jobs. Take a gander at these. You do typically send people or see people doing these jobs that don't have a lot of education.
So, for example, working at a fast food restaurant, you're looking at making $18,000 to $19,000 a year. Same with food preparation, dishwashers. You kind of all see those working at the same places. Shampooers or doing hair or cosmetics, we're looking at about $19,000. And counter attendants, that would be working at food concessions, coffee shops, cafeteria, think the places in the mall, $19,000. Okay, these are just averages. Keep that in mind.
So top 10 highest paying. Now, there was a whole lot of doctors in there, so they kind of took those out, which is why there's an asterisk at the top. When we look at who makes the most, you also have to look at how long did they spend in college. If you look at a surgeon, count those red dots. Yeah, that's a lot of red dots. That's how many years they spent in college. The less money if you go down the list all the way down there to a lawyer is going to make less money than a surgeon. However, how much time do they spend in college?
But $129,000 a year is not bad. I would be happy to make that much
I would
money.
too. I'd be fine with that.
Okay.
So if you want to donate. Okay.
Going down the list, we've got natural science manager, again science, engineering manager, computer IT staff, marketing manager. Okay, so you can see a trend. The more school you have, the more money you're likely to make.
Now, a lot of you guys might be wondering, why did these guys have to have so much education? And it's because look at what they're doing. They're having to build things that are going to hold people. Like if a building collapses or a bridge collapses, they've got to know what they're doing, so we don't have that collapsing situation.
Right. And keep in mind that $100,000 might not sound like that much, but when the average is about $40,000, is over twice as much. We're looking at 3 times as much just to be on the number 10 of the top 10. 3 times as much as the average person.
So when we break it down with salary by education, the more education you have,
the more you're going to make, essentially.
And in fact, it's like when you look down here at not a high school graduate, and remember those other jobs we were looking at, versus someone who's gone and gotten a college degree. This is 2 times what not a high school graduate would make. I don't think you want to drop out.
However, college is expensive, and we'll talk about that later, so there are pros and cons. College might not be for everyone. Okay, so what is the difference between an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, a master's, and a doctoral degree? Okay, an associate's degree would be like if you go to a community college, it lasts for about 2 years. So pick community, you go for 2 years to get an associate's degree.
A bachelor's degree is it's an undergraduate degree, and you generally stay in there for 4 years, although you can spend a little bit less or a little bit more time depending on how fast you go through it.
And if you wanted to keep going to school, so you might just end high school and go into bachelor's. Okay, you would skip the associate's degree if you just wanted to go to a 4-year school. However, you could substitute the 4-year school with a 2-year school to get an associate's degree. But once you get your bachelor's, you have the option to add on a degree, which would become a master's degree. A master's degree can be anywhere from 1 to 5 years, hopefully not 5. That would be a really long master's program. This shows that you have become an expert in your field. Okay, so naturally, if you have a master's degree, you'll get paid more than someone with a bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm. And then the last one that we have on here is a doctoral degree. And then what this does is, typically when someone says a doctoral degree, oh, you think they can practice medicine. And not necessarily. This allows somebody to be able to teach something. So like when you go to college and you have professors and they're Dr. Morgan, then that means that they have a doctoral degree, that they've done a lot of intensive studying in that particular field.
Yes, this lasts upwards of 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
You have to write a thesis, which is essentially like writing a book. You have to defend it in front of a panel. It's called a dissertation. And this could be, like if you go to pharmacy school, you end up with a PharmD, which is a doctoral degree. So it could be medicine related,
yeah,
but not always.
Mm-hmm.
So what is licensure? Does it mean, do you have to have a degree to have licensure? Can you get licensure without a degree? What's that all about?
So licensure is when you're able to practice something. It's when you get a license and the examples that I've given you here are to pilot a plane, or if you have a license to practice medicine. We have a license to teach. Mm-hmm. You have to get a license to practice psychiatry.
Mm-hmm. Or if you go to cosmetology school, you have to have a license to practice cosmetology.
Mm-hmm.
That you don't necessarily have to have a college degree for that, but you would have to have a license in order to practice.
That's right.
So what is unemployment? Earlier we were talking a lot about unemployment, and if you drop out of high school, you are unemployed. So what is unemployment? Unemployment is a percent of population that is without a job but is actively looking for one. This doesn't count stay-at-home moms, because stay-at-home moms are not looking for jobs. It doesn't count college students, because they're not necessarily looking for jobs. It counts the people who have been fired or laid off and are now seeking more employment.
Mm-hmm. So how much does college cost? Let's look at tuition. Tuition is how much college costs. If you want to go to a public school, that means that the state also throws some money in there when it's public. You're looking around $3,000. Public 4-year, so like a college or a university, is about $16,000. Now that's an average. ECU is not that expensive.
Carolina is going to be more expensive.
Yep. If you go out of state, the state of North Carolina has promised that they're going to give each person about $10,000. So out of state, you don't have that. So if you could decide to go to school in like Texas, it's going to be a lot more.
A lot more. 28,000. Okay, so now what you can do while you're waiting for your classmates to finish, go check out cfnc.org. See what the requirements are to go to the college you think you want to go to. What is the SAT score? What is the GPA? How many people get accepted?